Hi, pretty black girl. The title of this video is Dear Black Girl, It's Okay to Show Emotions. And this video is actually inspired by Love Island. I've been currently very hooked on Love Island USA season 7, and I've just been, you know, realizing some concepts. And I also want to shout out to Real Talk with Yanni and Jessie Woo because their reviews have also inspired me to make this video. And I appreciate how they analyzed concepts throughout the whole, the season and the episodes. And I really just wanted to talk about Shelley, for example, and how she deals with her emotions. And I've noticed that there's not a lot of crying when it comes to Shelley. And I'm not saying that showing emotion always has to be crying, but I've noticed that when it comes to Olandria and Shelley, the only time that she was crying was when Olandria left, rightfully so, because they really have a beautiful bond with each other. But Shelley has been pretty vulnerable throughout the show and expressed her emotions, but I will say that when it comes to Olandra, I feel like that is slightly more or less, and she kind of holds back her tears. And again, I want to emphasize that showing emotion does not always mean that you're crying constantly. No, there's different ways to show emotion. But what I will say is that Olandra does want to cry at times because she has been hurt by we all know who, Taylor, but she kind of holds herself from showing that emotion that she wants to show. So that was quite, touching to see because she's such a beautiful woman inside and out. And it just goes again, this whole image of us as a collective, not showing emotion. And it goes again to like how we grew up and dealing with a lot of trauma and our parents not allowing us to express ourselves and show our true feelings. And I know this is a reality TV show, so don't at me. Of course, they probably like edit a lot of things, but it is very still obvious that Oleandra, especially, holds herself from showing her true emotions. And we can see that because after, the when people got to reveal their true feelings with the note cards, um what was it, the episode called, Standing on Business? Yes. When that happened, she then actually showed so much emotion that was stacked up, and we saw another version of Oleandra, which I actually appreciate. She was very much emotional, and had she been more open and vulnerable about her feelings and not hold back those tears, then I don't think she would have, it would have escalated the way it escalated that night. And also, comment that she made was, keep that face card. When the girls were crying when she was leaving, she was like, keep that face card. And I know we got to keep the face card. But again, showing emotions is not something that you should restrict yourself from. And crying is allowed. Crying should be something that is allowed. And I think this goes again, probably because she's the oldest daughter, and me as the oldest daughter, I know that at times we have to be mothers to our younger siblings, and we are not always capable of showing emotions. And that's why I really wanted to talk about us as Black women showing emotions, because I really feel like we are the ones that are not as allowed to show all of our emotions. And I'm gonna, throughout the video, give examples of my real life experiences. And also, I want to mention that Huda from the show was really talk crying a lot. She got to, shed a lot of tears, and I highly doubt if Oleandra was, let's say, Huda and showing a lot of tears, if there would have been the same grace for Oleandra or Shelley, for example. I highly doubt that. And I know Amaya is a woman of color as well that cries a lot. I love Amaya Papaya, but I highly doubt that, women like Shelley and Oleandra, those two Black women, if they were showing, you know, that much emotion, if they were gonna be granted the same grace as, for example, Huda, because Huda has been crying, to be honest, almost every episode, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm being a little bit too dramatic. But talking about showing tears, we should be allowed to cry at times. And I'm not saying to cry every single second, but when you do feel like crying, you don't always have to hold back those tears. Let those tears fall, let them out, because eventually those emotions are going to stack up. Like the letters that they receive, they're going to stack up. And when it stacks up, it can either turn into anger, which is an emotion we should also be allowed to express, but it can also be unhealthy. You know, stacking up so much emotions can be something that is very unhealthy. And personally, I'm a pretty vulnerable person. I show my emotions. One thing about me, I'm gonna show my emotions. I'm gonna say how I feel, and I'm gonna feel how I feel. And I actually prep myself for it, and I think you should too as well. You should be able to, be vulnerable and being your feelings, because it honestly, I think it's so beautiful to be vulnerable about your feelings and to be honest about how you truly feel, because that's when you truly heal as a person, as a human, as a woman. And I don't feel shame or guilt for showing my emotions. And of course, sometimes you think, was this the right thing to say? Was it the right thing to say? Did I say too much? But then again, I allow myself to express my emotions and really say how I feel, because otherwise, sometimes, of course, it is important to have your own time, your free time, your me time, where you talk about, your own emotions within yourself, or whether that is with journaling or just talking to yourself. What Whatever outlet that you want to express your emotions, you should be allowed to have that. But I think it is also important to be able to express your emotions to others as well, and be fully honest and sit in your emotions and let them marinate, for lack of better words. Because as I've mentioned before, when you stack up those emotions, and Oleandra is a perfect example for this, you're gonna be angry. And I'm not saying that being angry is a bad thing, but in certain scenarios, it is not as adequate to express yourself that way. And you're doing yourself also disservice by being in that state of emotion, because it is even going to be more painful for you, because you've restricted yourself from showing emotion, from crying. And I've seen this time and time with Oleandra. She doesn't want to cry, and I think it really, again, has to do with this whole concept of being the eldest daughter. But then again, we as Black women, we try to not show much emotion. And then I also think because we don't allow ourselves to show emotion, it builds up. It truly does build up. And then we get these stereotypes as the angry Black woman, because we're just not able to express our emotions, that it's like a bomb, and then it eventually will explode. A bomb will eventually explode, and then you become that angry Black woman. And hey, I'm not here to say that, you know, the angry Black woman, that is not allowed. That is absolutely allowed. I just think that society, has picks and chooses people who they allow to be angry. And when it comes to us, we're not allowed to be that. But again, when being, in that state of anger, I think that you can control it by letting yourself be and feel emotions. Um, so yeah, I personally am a quite emotional person. That's probably the Pisces in me. I can be quite teary. I notice that I don't do it as much in public. And again, I don't know if that's because of I'm not as comfortable to like cry in public, or if it's because I just don't feel like crying in public, because usually I don't feel like crying in public. I do cry in my room at times when I hear things that are just really emotional, and I watch something, I let myself cry. Or when I'm with friends, I am vulnerable, to be honest. An example is, I'm honest about how I feel, and I say it out loud, of course, in a respectful manner. And I don't want to, make people feel bad about themselves. I am always very respectful in how I feel and honest about it and straight up about it. So I won't hide my feelings. I say them out loud and I say it how it is. Um, and I also straight up say no to people. Like, honestly, I have, deviated from being a people pleaser. And also, I think maybe this might tie to this whole not showing emotion, where you want to please other people and you don't want to disappoint the people around you, because showing emotions can make people feel uncomfortable, and they can think that you're being dramatic or whatsoever, and you don't want people to feel that way. So then, you hold yourself back and you don't want to disappoint the people that are around you. You don't want them to judge you. But I'll say, cry, let it out, let it out, let it out, let it flow. And I cry and I let things out, because I think also crying can be so beautiful, and it can be so relieving in a way. I think it's crying is somewhat therapeutic, and I'm not saying that I'm crying every single day, but whenever I do cry, it is because I'm showing my emotions, and because I truly want to cry. I just want to cry it out. you know, cry and cry. It's fine to cry. And I think it's really important to just straight up say no to people, as I've mentioned prior, and I do not care. I do not care. So there's this, little story time. I was at work, and we have to obviously wear our work clothes, and I had this t-shirt on, and it is slightly a little bit, bigger. So I use, like a hairband to tie it, cinch it a little bit more around my waist. You can't see my belly. It's just a little bit more shorter, and the weather was hot, so why not make the t-shirt a little bit shorter, slightly, shorter than it actually is, and it, you know, looks good on my figure. And then there's this older lady, and she just grabs me and starts pulling my t-shirt down. And I told her, stop doing that. I straight up told her, why are you doing this? And she was like, yeah, you always, put your t-shirt shorter, and this is not like a fashion show, basically kind of making a fool out of me. And she was doing this in front of the clients. And I told her straight up, can you not do this? And don't touch me, I told her, first of all. And then I also told her, I really find it so disrespectful that you're doing this in front of the clients. If you really wanted to tell me this, you could have done this, somewhere else. And she was just being mean to me, touching me and pulling my t-shirt down. And I was just like, straight up, don't touch me. So I expressed my emotions. I didn't stay still. And I told her, like, don't touch me. And I literally, like, was ignoring her and did not give her any face or any grace. I straight up showed my emotions. And I know that in some cases, we as women, we don't want to speak up. We want to be quiet and, just do what they tell us. But I'm not going to do what you tell me, because, first of all, I'm covered up, and I don't know what your obsession is with me, truly. And you cannot even touch me. You're not even allowed to touch me. So that was, I stood up for myself, and I'm really happy that I did that. And I also went to the manager, and I got emotional. I didn't cry, but I truly showed my emotional side and talked to her and was like, this is not okay. This is actually very unacceptable. And it is, the A word that is not allowed. I don't want to say certain words on YouTube because, but I got emotional and expressed my emotions to my manager and was like, this is not acceptable. What is happening here? Why is she touching me? And I was emotional. I talked to the manager, and I also expressed my feelings towards this coworker that was just touching me for no reason and pulling my t-shirt down. And I told her straight up, don't do that. Do not touch me, because that is not allowed. So that's a way of showing your emotions, is also by standing up for yourself and, you know, being vulnerable is a way of, showing emotions. Crying is a way of showing emotions. I showed emotions, and she let me have a break, my manager. She told me, you can go and relax. I know it's a lot on you. So I also let's go a little bit on the brighter side. I laugh a lot. I'm a very bubbly person and I laugh out loud. I'm always very smiley. I smile a lot because I have a beautiful smile and I have a reason to show off my smile because I have gorgeous teeth. So much so that people tell me you're always positive. That's something that people always tell me. You're always so positive and you have a beautiful smile, things like that people tell me. And when I'm not happy, I remember this one time at work, I was really tired and just exhausted. And because I was tired and exhausted, of course, I'm not going to be as bubbly. And I let myself be. I allowed myself to not be like this super bubbly person. Because no, sometimes you have ups and downs. And there was this client, and he told me, what happened today? You seem so um not so happy. And I was like, yeah, I'm not, I'm tired. And I was honest about my emotions. I didn't hide the fact that I was tired, and just because I was tired, I'm not gonna sit here and lie about it. I am tired and I just wasn't feeling as happy. And that can also happen. We shouldn't always have this performance of being happy, because sometimes it can be a little bit performative, and that shouldn't be the case. You should be allowed to, if you're happy, you're happy, but if you're not happy, I let myself be and I accept the fact that I'm not happy at times. And, happiness will always eventually come back, and sadness will also come to you as well. And you should embrace those both sides. There was a YouTuber that I was watching, and I believe her name is Liberty Love her. And she was talking about how we always chase happiness and we don't let ourselves be in sadness or sit in sadness. And she was like, why don't we do that? We should, let ourselves sit in sadness. And I honestly became to, no, not became, but I got a different perspective on how, we don't always have to be 24/7 happy. We can also just be sad and just be, truly. So I would say, you know, allow yourself to feel, dear black girl. You're allowed to feel your emotions. You're human. And also, you're just a girl. um, I am really bubbly at work, for example. I've mentioned that prior. Um, and again, if you watched my last video that I discussed, being pretty in public spaces, the guy that was the coworker that was talking about my flat butt told me I should not talk the way that I talk, because I always talk very bubbly with this, very positive voice to the customers. That was my old job, by the way. And I talked really soft, he told me. And I was like, but how else should I talk? And then he told me you should talk manly. And I'm just like, no. I told him, no, I'm not going to do that, because I'm not a man. So that was just an interesting comment from him. And then I don't know if it has to do with, this whole stereotype of us as black women always portraying as being this strong, powerful woman, which I will say, I think that that is a beautiful thing, that we are seen as strong. But then again, we should also be allowed to be soft. And I've noticed, because I'm more leaning towards a soft, I'm a soft girl. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not the strongest soldier out there. I feel my emotions. I'm soft, even when it comes to strength. I'm not the strongest out there, and I show emotions, and I am pretty soft. So, yeah, I just feel like we're not granted that freedom to be soft, I guess. And I am really willing to, you know, do otherwise, because again, that's not who I am. I've always been this very soft person, and also from within have really big heart. But I think you should also be allowed to be that. And I'm not saying that being a strong black woman is a negative thing. Again, I think we come in different forms and shapes, and then also different personalities. And I think you should also be allowed to be a strong black woman if that's what you are, but also to be a soft black girl if that's what you are. And that should be allowed. Those two should be able to coexist without there being any problem. So it's okay if you're soft, but it's also okay if you're strong. Those two things can coexist, as I've mentioned prior, and just feel, really, truly feel, dear black girl, because you are worth it. You are so worth it. You're beautiful from within and on the outside, obviously, as well. But just know not everything has to be held all in. Let it out, let it flow. um, Show your emotions, and that is truly just the message that I wanted to spread out today. And that it is okay to show emotions, it is okay to be vulnerable, it is okay to be soft, it is okay to be strong. You are beautiful the way that you are, from inside and also from the outside, and just let it flow. That was it for today. Stay beautiful.